Hello, friends. Welcome to tonight's live chat. It's good to see you. Hopefully, you can hear me. Um, I'm just gonna not touch anything. Hopefully, as you guys sign on, you will be able to hear me. And then, of course, let me know if you can't. So far, so good on my end, but we'll see. Um, let's jump in, guys. Let me make sure, though. Give me 1 second because I want to make sure Instagram is actually here with me. So bear with me here just for a second. There we go. Okay. So let me hit the live button. Let me give them a little bit on Instagram, a little bit of a welcome. I'm going to say, hello, friends. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Come join me on my channel. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to switch back over to YouTube. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know. Thank you so much, Mark Lee. I just saw that. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and jump in since we have no tech issues tonight. This conversation about chaos-driven people was really hard for me to piece together because it's such a broad topic. And I could literally start talking about personality disorders, narcissism, antisocial personality. I could talk about histrionic personality or histrionics. I could also talk about borderline personality. I could talk about, what's that other disorder that I talked about? Intermittent explosive disorder. So it was really hard for me to kind of narrow this down. But the way I decided to narrow it down, I think you guys are going to be able to relate to this. And hopefully, as Felix said earlier, I see that you said you're having a little bit of a hard time. I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully, as you said, something will click tonight. I'm hoping for most of you, you will get some validation, some clarity, some understanding of these kind of personalities because they are all around us. It's hard to decipher, just like yesterday's topic. It's hard to decipher what's a personality disorder from what's a personality characteristic that can fluctuate and change over time, just like entitled people. How do we know and what are the criteria that needs to be met to fully understand narcissists versus entitled people? So we're going through that same dilemma tonight, guys, just by looking at this, right? What's a chaos-driven person versus a person who has a personality disorder? Because sociopaths and psychopaths are chaos-driven. Narcissists are chaos-driven, right? Entitled people are chaos-driven. And even some individuals with mental illnesses like bipolar disorder or intermittent explosive disorder or even ADHD can also be chaos-driven individuals. So it's hard to tease this apart, but I'm going to do my very best in teasing it apart. Now, let's jump into some new terminology. If you look up the word or if you Google the phrase chaotic people, I'll put it that way. If you Google the phrase chaotic people, you're likely to find a variety of blogs, a variety of articles on people who are exaggerative. And you're also likely to see a term called chaos addiction. Chaos addiction. And it's kind of an easy way of saying this individual is so addicted to chaos that they don't know how to be peaceful. Right? Maybe it's your sister, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your mother. Everything they do has an element of chaos to it. I see clients all the time who live chaos-driven lives. They either create their own chaos because they have zero self-awareness, or they cause chaos because they are stuck in a repetitive pattern of trauma, bad decisions, substance abuse, alcoholism, mental illness, relapses in a variety of things, addictions, the list goes on. Chaos-driven individuals can have a lot going on. But when this is your family, somebody that you're married to, somebody that you're dating, a boss, a coworker, it's really hard to live life with them, right? Because at the core of a chaos-driven person is a propensity for confrontation and argumentation. a propensity for confrontation and argumentation. They don't know how to approach matters in a mature, calm, self-directed way. We all get emotional, we all get angry. Certain things pushes our buttons more than others. We are human, right? We have emotions, we have thoughts about things, and we also have patterns of behavior. That is totally fine. But I am literally pointing out the chaos addicted individuals who not only like to start the chaos, but they also contribute to it, and they don't care. This is what's painful about these people. They don't care what the impact on you is. Neither do they care about how they're handling the situation, right? And I always tell my adolescent clients this: you have to handle with kid gloves every situation, if you can, every situation that can result in complete loss of control and chaos. If you want to have a conversation with your parents, you've got to do it in the right way. If you want to have a sensible, logical conversation with your boss, you have to do it the right way. If you want to get your point across as to how angry you are because that person over there betrayed you, you've got to do it in the right way. It's only when you go wrong that things become way bigger than they need to be, right? And so chaos driven people don't get that. They don't get it at all. And some of them strictly don't care. They enjoy that repetitive, confrontational, argumentative cycle of chaos. And they don't have a desire to have peace and quiet. There's no desire for calm and holding hands and singing kumbaya, for lack of a clinical term. They don't want that. They thrive off of the energy of chaos. Really try to think of this topic tonight as, or think of the people that we're going to talk about tonight as individuals who are almost like a match. They have to have at all times, something has to really light their fire. I'll put it that way, to get them interested and engaged in life. Otherwise, they're bored, they're mundane, they feel like their life has no purpose and meaning, they really feel like they're not heard. And so because of that, and notice that's heard in quotation marks, they don't know how to be okay with the way things are. And let's say, for example, you have a sister that you never could get along with. You wanted to make it work. You guys come together, you had a dinner, you talk about updates in the family, you're getting along well with each other. And you walk away from that conversation thinking, you know what, me and my sister are probably going to get along. And this is a great beginning. 2 days later, you get a phone call. You pick up the phone. Hey, sis, what's going on? How you doing? I can't believe you said that to me on Monday. And you may be kind of stumbled back, like, what? And, you may say, I don't know what you mean. Did I say something to offend you? And your sister might say, you know what you said to me. And you may say, no, I really don't. What are we talking about? And your sister could, come back at you with, why would you say during our conversation of how we grew up that you grew up differently than me? You didn't grow up any differently than me. And you may say, oh my God, I didn't mean that to offend you. I just meant mom and dad always felt that you were independent and you can do everything on your own. Whereas mom and dad didn't raise me that way. They had babysitters watching me up until the age of 17. And they're still like, helicopter parenting. And your sister may follow up with, I don't know if that's what you meant or not, but whatever you meant, I took it personal. And I would appreciate if you don't do this again. I've been in sessions where this has happened. And I just sit in the session like this because there's no reason for the defensiveness, the anger, for lack of a clinical term, the nasty disposition, the disposition of, I'm better than you. How dare you talk to me that way? It's a painful exchange, right? And so you may continue on in this exchange with your sister until your sister finds something else offensive, and then you feel her emotions rising, and it's rising a little bit more, it's rising a little bit more, and kaboom, there's the volcano. And so now your sister, with a strong propensity for confrontation and argumentation or argumentativeness, is now just exploded, right? And so you may start to see in this sibling, I'm trying to make sure I'm giving you all with this example, you may start to see with this sibling chaos and a history of chaos. And maybe that's why this sister you had to go no contact with. This is just an example. But maybe you've had to go no contact with this sibling because this is how they take things. They may not say that they're offended by you in that moment that you guys are having a conversation. They may actually wait until 2 days later. They may wait until 2 or 3 weeks later. They may actually wait a whole entire year before they bring up the reason for why they've been distant, the reason for why they don't really want to communicate with you anymore, the reason why they walked out of the restaurant upset with you, right? These individuals are sometimes like an onion. There are so many layers to them. And you really have to peel it back one layer at a time if you can. Now, keep in mind that if you're dealing with a chaos addicted individual or driven individual, there's likely an interplay between particular personality traits and the environment or social contexts. And here's what that means: that these individuals have specific personality traits that makes them argumentative. An example of that would be narcissism. And we're talking about overt narcissism, grandiose narcissism, the narcissism that you can see in a person just by the way they walk, just by the way they stand, just by the way they hold their head and look at you, just by the amount of eye contact and the intensity of eye contact they give you, just by listening to their conversation, right? So we're talking about the overt, grandiose narcissists. Other personality traits could be histrionic personality. So we're talking about an individual who's loud, who's theatrical, who's robust in how they talk to you. So in other words, their words are big, their tone is big, their attitude towards you is huge and intense, and they're screaming and they're yelling and they're cursing, and you just feel like you have been attacked by an entire elephant. Why? Because they tend to be very much an earthquake. And until you meet or have a personal experience with a histrionic person, you really will have a hard time conceptualizing this. But anytime, I think in my entire 15-year career, I've only had maybe 3, I was going to say 4, 3 histrionic individuals. One was an adolescent who every time, this was when I worked in a residential treatment facility so many years ago, it might have been back in 2016, 2017. And I worked in a residential treatment facility where it was a huge like area of land, like our college campus, and kids of all kinds would be on the campus between the ages of 21 and 5. And I remember seeing an adolescent, she was 15 years old, and it was something about her I just couldn't connect with, And you may find this is why I'm giving you the story, because you may be able to relate to this. You may find this in some of the chaos-driven people that you have come across. But there was something about her, that I just couldn't connect with. I tend to connect with kids really, really well, parents really well, adolescents really well. They love the fact that I'm very authentic, straight to the point, and I'm careful with how I engage them in their treatment. So, and that is not bragging, I promise you. It's more so just me trying to explain that I do tend to connect well with kids. Most kids. I rarely have a kid say, I don't like Miss Tamara. So this child, though, was very different for me. We couldn't connect. I couldn't develop that bond, that clinical bond that I needed. And I thought, okay, maybe she's a little bit of a different temperament. Maybe it's me, maybe the stress of just this month, maybe, and I'm trying to come up with a variety of reasons why I just couldn't connect with her. Well, the reason I couldn't connect to her was soon found out after at least 28 days of having her in the residential treatment facility. Every family session became a nightmare. Why? Because anytime her mom would try to express her emotions, anytime her dad or her siblings would sit in front of me and try to express their emotions to this young lady, it had to be a matter of seconds, literal seconds, before she completely exploded into a major volcano of, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to cut myself, and you're going to be sorry because when I die, you're going to be sorry, you're going to have guilt full in your heart. She's like, I'm going to blame you, my siblings are going to blame you, and she's just going off and going off. And then next thing you know, the parents are getting hit with a barrage of profanity, right? I've never heard so many alphabets in my entire life. She was saying curse words I have never heard. And then on top of that, her crying was very shallow. There was hardly any tears. She didn't seem emotionally motivated at all. She was very theatrical, very kind of, what's the word, dissociated from the now. It was like she was somewhere in her mind way back over there, and she's performing on a stage, and she's hoping that her entire performance will either wear her parents down, cause me to lean on her side of things and advocate for her when I really shouldn't have, or she's hoping that everybody would just be intimidated and let her do all the talking. And this is the way every family session would go. And that is literally, that's part of the clinical criteria of a person with histrionic personality disorder. So you have an individual who, at the core of who you are, you can sense intuitively that this is a show. This is a whole big movie screen. This is not a real person who's having true emotions. This right here is an act. And so chaos-driven people tend to be like this young lady. They're very theatrical. They look like they're performing on a stage. They do any and everything to get a reaction from you. And they also tend to be an emotional roller coaster, because that tends to be the number one thing that intimidates, controls, and causes people to say, you know what, you win, right? Most chaos-driven people, and then I'm going to go to the chat box. Most chaos-driven people tend to, it's almost like they're a part of a quilt, if you will. There's always a variety of attitudes they have, or a variety of moods that they have, or a variety of did I say emotions? I feel like I missed that piece, but there's a variety of, that's the word, faces that they put on that almost makes you confused as to who they are. It's like, well, wait a minute, weren't you just crying the other day and threatening suicide? Now you're happy and saying life is wonderful, and you love me as your sister, even though you said I offended you. And then maybe 2 or 3 days later, they've got on another mask. They change in and out of character, personality, moods, attitudes, mindsets, behaviors. And really, it's like picking up a mask and putting it on, picking up another mask, putting it on again. And part of the circle, though, includes narcissism. We have to keep in mind that narcissists crave chaos. They crave chaos. That is how they function. That is how they stay, at least they feel that that's how they stay on top of everybody. They create chaos, right? These individuals also, it's almost like they've been wired. Before I go to the chat box, it's like they've been wired to respond this way. They've been wired to respond in a way that causes disequilibrium. They enjoy that. That is just who they are. Their brain is literally conditioned to the chaos and the argumentativeness, the competitiveness, the propensity for confrontation. Their brain is wired for that. And as a matter of fact, there is some research. I'll get into this just a little bit later, just a little bit of it. But there is some research that suggests there are some people who love chaos so much that they actually crave it in a physiological way. And so if their body, just like you crave chocolate, just like you crave love and attention, just like you crave privacy, freedom, all that stuff, all of those experiences that we like, right? These individuals crave chaos so much so that they have to go out and find it, And these are the individuals who are status driven. We call them status driven individuals because chaos equals status for some of these individuals. Consider a political movement or activism, right? Or something where you go down to your downtown area, and maybe you're trying to advocate for parent rights or grandparents' rights or abortion, abolition of abortion, whatever the case may be. You're advocating for it because your heart is in it, your mind's in it, and you want to create change. But status driven, chaotic driven people may not be in that crowd of activists for the right reasons. Sometimes these individuals seek out protests, times to engage in activism. Some of these individuals claim that they are being proactive, that they are being charitable. That is not the case. No, they are not. They are chaos addicted, chaos driven, status driven individuals who have to get their physiological fix. And so these are the individuals that you may see in a crowd of people who 1 minute they're peaceful and calm, and the next minute they are taking a bat to a store that had nothing to do with what they're marching about or what am I trying to say? Becoming an activist for. They may also, terrorize the neighborhood or burglarize certain homes, right? These are the individuals who are status driven, chaos driven, and they do need a physiological response to happen in their bodies to actually make them feel whole again. So they actually are, if we break this down a little bit, they are actually addicted to the endorphins and to the fight or flight mode that happens within the body when chaos or any kind of emotionally stimulating situation occurs. So they know that they have to be the kind of individuals to get it started. So we do have, let me clarify this before I go to the chat box. We do have a variety of sets of characters here. So consider chaos driven individuals as the umbrella. Okay. Chaos driven people is really the umbrella. Underneath that umbrella, you've got Karens, you've got people who enjoy creating chaos in society because it's exciting. You've got people who respond to chaos because they just need that physiological fix. You have people who are dramatic because of mental illnesses or personality disorders or a need for attention. You also have chaos addicted individuals because they are entitled, as we talked about yesterday, and they feel they have the right to be heard, to get what they want, to do what they want without being told they can't, right? So again, consider chaos addicted individuals as the umbrella, and we have a variety of characters under there. Okay. All right, guys, let me go to the chat box, see what you guys are saying, and engage you. And in this live chat tonight, we're going to talk about common issues that you see in these kind of individuals. And I know you've come in contact with them. I'm going to give you just a little bit of research, and then I'm going to give you some insights on how this impacts you, because it is going to impact you for sure. Felix, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. I hope you're doing well. I think I addressed you at the very beginning, but I'm hoping that this conversation will be very helpful. Gary Bennett, thank you so much for being a comfort to her. I really appreciate that. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Fairy Girl, Sun and Sunflowers, Mark Lee, Laura Fitt, Kay Brazy, and Jessica J, Ellie Wynn, and Bossy Truthy 15. Hello to all of you. So glad to see you. Thank you, Mark Lee. I just saw a comment that you posted. I just saw it in passing. SH and Black Girls Getting Their Shift together. Hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Jessica J says, good to be here tonight, suffering from an anxiety attack today. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Anxiety attacks are major, aren't they? They're huge. And I think a lot of people fail to realize, and I hope this won't be a triggering topic for you, Jessica J, but A lot of people fail to realize that chaos-driven people can trigger panic attacks even when you don't think one is coming on, and even when you least expect it. And if you're like one of my clients that I'm currently seeing, her panic attacks happen later after the fact. So a chaos-driven person, which the mother is, tends to create all this chaos during the beginning of the day. And then my client ends up experiencing a panic attack right before bedtime. Like, it doesn't hit her right then and there. So I'm sorry you're going through that. Hopefully you're doing a little bit better. Courtney Frazier, hello. Good to see you, as well as Don One and TZ In Yang 01. Hello and welcome to you both. She says, grew up in it and then assumed it was normal. Absolutely. And that's one of my points later in the live chat tonight, that sometimes you do take on that behavior. You learn that behavior. It's like Pavlov's conditioned dogs, right? Or I can't think of the other one. I'm forgetting. I can't think of it. It's just escaped me. But it is like, being conditioned, right? And if you have parents who are like this, and siblings who are like this, and grandparents who are like this, and maybe you live in a neighborhood where this kind of disposition is okay, you will learn it. And you may be surprised that you've learned it so much that it has then become ingested by you, and it's become a part of your character. And so when something triggers you, you may find yourself acting out that way as well. Maybe something that's very subconscious, right? You don't even know that it's there, but it's there. Fairy Girl says, addicted to the dysfunctionality. Yes, absolutely. There are some people like that. Some people that have a history of childhood trauma, they often reenact that trauma later in their life. So if you grew up in a lot of chaos and argumentativeness and domestic violence and substance abuse and emotional instability, over time, your body and your brain get so used to that once you become an adult, right, then you kind of reenact that same childhood in your adult life and in your adult, relationships. And I think that's when a lot of people realize that, oh my God, I've actually ingested and I've digested this unhealthy way of living. Tammy Nicely and MS, good to see you both back in a live chat with me. MS says, it's my entire darn family. Thank you for curtailing the profanity. I appreciate that. And thank you for being honest. She says, or he says, I can never tell what gender, so I apologize. But they go on to say, they've exhausted me. Yeah. Thank you very much for covering this topic. You're welcome. It's exhausting, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Part of that is because they are exhausting themselves and they don't realize it. Have you ever seen somebody in a store or at a public place snap out? You can find that on YouTube all the time. I may post a video in the description box to give you an example of this kind of disposition, but you can find these kind of people in the public, right? I told you guys yesterday about a Starbucks situation that I have observed for the third time while I'm out just trying to have some coffee and do some paperwork outside of my office, and I've seen people that come into Starbucks. They look well put together. They're dressed nice. They're clean cut. They seem to be rather prim and proper until they don't get the sugar packs they wanted. They don't get the flavor they asked for. They get a plastic cup instead of a paper cup. They get a napkin and they really want you to, use something else. You can always find somebody like this in public, right? And what they don't realize, these kind of individuals, is you're not only tiring us out, but you're tiring the people all around you that's watching you, and you're also tiring yourself out, It's pretty interesting. Girl Mom, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Girl Mom says, the more I think about what happened to me in this town, the more disturbing. Can they donate money from Cruella or Wicket to nonprofits that help discrimination? I'd have to know exactly what you're talking about, Girl Mom. You'd have to break that one down for me. I won't comment. I have some thoughts, but I won't comment until I know exactly what you're talking about. The Good Glow, hello and welcome. I like that. That is so cute. Says, I'm a little famished and can't wait to hear what Tam has cooked up for us this evening. Thank you so much for that support. I hope it's going to be helpful. Orlando, Good to see you. Welcome back tonight. Give me 1 minute, guys, as I scroll through this because there's a lot here that I'm backed up on. JD Jenny, hello and welcome back. Good to see you. Nancy R, good to see you as well. Nancy R says, sometimes I feel like I can be a magnet for people like this. I'm learning to repel for peace. Yeah, absolutely. We can be a magnet. You know why? Most chaotic, addicted people and drama-driven people tend to be so emotional that they can pull you in with their stories, with their charismatic disposition, with their emotionality, with how they talk with you, with how they gain and maintain your attention. You know, some people are like that. I've run into people like that in my past where I really need to get my groceries, go get some gas, go to Home Depot, get home, cook dinner, wash some clothes, do some laundry, and then I really have a lot of paperwork to do. That's literally how busy my world is. But in the past, I'm thinking this to myself, and I'm like, okay, I have these various things to do, and yet I've given this lady at Target in the parking lot my time because I said to her, your little girl is so cute. And she says to me, thank you so much. Oh, believe me, she's not this way all the time. And then I may say something like, oh my, I'm sure most cute little girls have a lot of spunk to them. Well, there we go. There's a whole conversation. Oh my God, tell me. You're not telling me anything I don't know. And then blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, about 45 minutes later, you're still standing there in the Target parking lot talking to this individual. And again, they tend to be chaos addicted or driven people tend to pull you in, and they do so because they're so captivating. They're so emotional. They're so sometimes very genuine and straight to the point, Don't feel bad, Nancy R. It really is a life journey of figuring out how much you can and cannot take. And I've had to learn that. I've had to learn that lesson. In my 20s, I had to learn that lesson. In my early 30s, I had to learn that lesson. And now I'm still learning that lesson, But a little over time, and this is specifically for you, Nancy, a little bit over time, I think you'll learn how to sense that person is right in your midst and you can cut it off, And I'm like that with some clients. I can sense it a mile away. All I have to do is talk to you on the phone. All I have to do is see your behavior towards me. If I tell you I have to reschedule your appointment because you're late, right? So yeah, it's a continual learning process is what I'm trying to say. Okay, let me keep moving, guys. Is it Hattie A? Hello and welcome. I hope I said that correctly. And welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. It looks like you're relating to this. Hanafa El Amin. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Hello and welcome back. Good to see you. Hanafa El Amin says they love chaos, Tamara, insanity. Yeah. They are magnets to chaos, Yeah, Ellie Wen says listening, headache. Yeah. This topic may make it worse. Bossy2315 says, I just don't like attention. These people invade our privacy. Yes, they do. That's a point I was going to make later. Yes, they do. Yeah. JD Jenny, they do have a sense of superiority. Yes, they do. Yeah, I agree with that. Andrew Mercer, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at I don't know. Patricia, hello, welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Patrick Black 1, hello and welcome. Glad to see you back tonight. Says Tamara, thank you so much for all you do. You're a godsend. Thank you so much and you're welcome. That's very touching. Thank you. He goes on to say, hello, everyone. Proud of us for seeking understanding to our unfortunate circumstances. Absolutely. I love that a lot. Jamal Jacobson, hello. Good to see you. Welcome. Jessica J says, why are these high conflict family members not able or willing to communicate peacefully? Are they programmed to be aggressive and mean? Sometimes. Sometimes they're programmed to be aggressive and mean. Sometimes they realize that gets them what they want, right? Imagine them going into a restaurant and, getting the wrong plate in front of them, and they pound the table, they throw the plate on the floor, they scream, they threaten to sue, they threaten not to pay for their meal, and they sit there like big babies and complain and threaten and demean and act superior, and the list goes on, right? They show all of these behaviors. I called it a tapestry of chaos earlier in the live chat. I think I did a tapestry of chaos, right? It's like oh goodness gracious, I don't know. Sorry, guys. That's my mom calling me. I don't know what's going on there. If she calls me again, I will have to mute and see what's needed. But, you have this individual just really having this complete meltdown, and, they are just very emotional, but that gets them what they want. That gets them what they want. So Jessica J, that kind of reinforces that if they just scream, if they act aggressive, if they act big-headed and superior, that this is going to get them what they want. And so, a behavior that works, they're going to continue to do it. And that's simply because it's reinforced. If a supervisor of a restaurant says, you know what, you don't have to pay, let us give you a whole new meal on us, right? That aggressive behavior was just reinforced. And so now they're going to try it in every other area of their life. I cannot with good conscience not go and see what my mom needs. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm so sorry. All right, just to make you guys laugh, you want to know what that was? So my mom is here again tonight. She's upstairs. She's like, I'm like, Mom, I'm on YouTube. What's going on? She's like, I didn't mean to call you. That was an accident. For those of you who know, my mom's in recovery, which is why I have to go and see how she's doing. That should make you laugh. She's like, I'm so sorry. I accidentally hit the wrong button. But I hope that makes sense to Jessica J, to get back on track here. I hope that makes sense. Let me also throw in here for you as well, Jessica J, that a lot of individuals who are like this, they don't want to communicate in a peaceful way, because if they communicate in a peaceful way, depending on how big their ego is, it can really make them feel like they are stooping to a certain level. And remember what I said about entitled people yesterday. They want to be up here. They want you here, and they want to be there. So if they want to be here, they're not going to come and they're not going to come and be on an equal level with you and have a peaceful conversation, because that means you're respecting me and I'm respecting you and everything is going to be okay, right? But they don't want that. If they have a really big ego, if they tend to be chaos driven, if they tend to be narcissist or histrionic, they want the big explosion. One way, Jessica J, I'm going to offer this as a suggestion. One way that you can get over on them is not to react. If you can practice controlling facial expressions, controlling tone of voice, really appearing as if you are unbothered, they will not know what to do with themselves. Because a lot of people who act this way, chaos driven or addicted people, look for your response, So that's something, Jessica J, you may want to practice. It has definitely worked for me. Fairy Girl, thank you so much for the super chat. And I think that's so kind to say, Courtney, glad you exist. Courtney Frazier. I'm also going to jump on the bandwagon and say happy birthday to you. I'm sorry. I did see your comment earlier that you were going through a little bit of a work. What's the word I want to say here? You're going through a rough time. So I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, let's keep going, guys. JD Jenny says, is histrionic personality genetic? Yes, it's an interplay between genes and environment. So you know how a narcissist is made and not created? Well, so too is a histrionic individual. They can be made and they can also be created. And sometimes it's both, right? It's genes and environment, biology and environment. If you have a young lady or a young man who's very emotional and very flamboyant and rambunctious and aggressive just by genetics alone. If you add the environmental influence to that, right? They know how to get their way. They've been given their way, right? They know how to wear people out. They know how to manipulate other people. You get those two things together and it becomes the histrionic individual. I hope that makes sense. Oh, geez, I have to read this. This is cute and funny. Bossy Truthy 15 says, I will give my mom an Oscar award. She's the best actress I have ever seen in my life. Oh, my Lord. That is the cutest thing I've ever heard. Well, I can't blame you. I really cannot. I'm going to star that because I think everybody can relate to that. I've had some people in my professional and personal life like that. And I think, you're not going to get up on my stage and start performing because I'm not going to entertain you at all. I'm not going to give you that attention. It's too much. A seat at the King's table with Tanisha. Hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to see you back. She goes on to say, my family is uber dramatic, but I also have a little of it too. Yeah, I totally understand. I think we need to see drama as being on a spectrum, right? And so sometimes I think we all can be dramatic, especially if we're triggered, but we really are talking about the individuals who live on 10 all the time. They rarely come down to 1. And if they are at a 1 or a 2 or a 3, which is the lower level of the spectrum, they can certainly go up to 10 if one wrong thing happens. They don't take constructive criticism well. They don't like to listen to other opinions and other people. They don't want to be taught they're not allowed to do anything. They don't want to be told that they're not allowed to do anything. And they are also very, very sensitive to rules and regulations. This is who they are. And so you want to think of chaos addicted individuals as literally at the core of who they are, their personality, their genetic makeup, how the mind works, how their fight or flight system works. They thrive off of chaos because that's just who they are. That's just who they are. Mojo Jorio, hello and welcome. Good to see you. And I did not resume consultation. So I'm scheduling into late April and May for consultation. So feel free to email me at the email in the description box if you would like a consultation. Now, I am backed up. So I just told somebody the other day, I'm working through my consultation emails and I will get to you as soon as I can to get you scheduled. Mojo Giorgio says, I need help breaking contact with my family because 2 members are my close friends and it's tough. Yeah, I understand. I get it. I understand. Yeah. Sometimes you just kind of need to bounce ideas and get a second opinion that is experienced with this kind of thing. I get that for sure. Angel Oaks Bay, I hope I said that correctly. Hello and welcome. She's covering her mouth saying, oh no. I hope that doesn't mean you think it's you because it probably isn't. It probably isn't. Hanifa El Amin, I'm just going to put your comment up there so people can see it before we go back to the content. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm scrolling. Okay, here we go. C. Hello, C. Welcome to tonight's live chat. C says drama and more. They look down like they never had issues. I'm so ready to let them go, but I'm expecting and needed to stay with family until my baby comes. Oh, geez. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm sorry you're going through that. That's a hard one. Sun and Sunflower says, my sister would always cause drama with me, especially a smear campaign. Now she is the go-to person in the family. That's a good point. That happens in a lot of families, but always arguing with those whose same family members that believed her lies. Yeah, I totally get that. Sometimes that is just how it goes. That's the family dynamic when it's a toxic family dynamic. Usually dramatic individuals who engage in smear campaigns, they engage in gossiping, they engage in talking behind people's backs. they're going to do it to the person that they are talking to. My grandmother used to say the same thing. She used to say, if you, okay, bear with me, because this was her saying, don't judge me for this one. But she would say, if the person brings me a bone, then they're going to take a bone or carry a bone. If they carry a bone, they're going to take a bone. Some way she would put that. And really, I remember asking her when she was alive, I says, Granny, what does that mean? And she says to me, that means if they're going to bring you gossip, if they're going to bring you chaos, if they're going to bring you anything else that they shouldn't be bringing you, they're likely going to take everything from what you tell them, all of your personal information and experiences, and they're going to take it to somebody else. So it's probably going to happen that way. Okay, one more comment before I go back to the content. Craig Samuels, hello, welcome. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Randy L, good to see you and hello. And Daryl Harris, oh, good God, what did I do? I literally hit the wrong button. Bear with me. Fairy Girl, I'm looking at, oh my goodness, I'm so behind. Bear with me, guys. I'm looking for the comment that I just had up. May not be able to find it. I'm so far behind. Okay, I'm just going to choose someone. Jay Harvey, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in tonight's live chat. Jay Harvey says, sometimes I'm that person spewing my traumas, but I have experienced others spewing on me and I've distanced myself. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes you have to, and it's a good thing that you notice it within yourself, because then you can pump the brakes and say, wait a minute, this is a toxic way of trying to communicate. You're my last one before we go back to the content. Ash Shakur Whitaker. Ash Shakur Whitaker says they don't respect boundaries. Absolutely. They don't respect boundaries. They don't care to use boundaries, and they very rarely have boundaries themselves, right? So let's jump into this. Okay, guys, what are the common issues here? Well, there's often destruction of order. They don't like order. This is what research in this area of study has highlighted. And I also have seen this within my career over the past 15 years. There's destruction of order. They don't like order. Anytime there's order, there's balance, there's equilibrium, there's rules, there's regulations, there's expectations. They don't want it. Not because they're a free spirit, not because they like to do their own thing, not because they're so independent individual. It's because they don't want to have to succumb to the fact that there's rules, balance, equilibrium, and structure. And you have to follow that in society. These are the individuals that, for those of you who remember the show Cops, you remember that show? I used to watch it like this as a kid. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening now? And I would watch it every night before I went to bed, and followed by Mama's Family. But Cops was the absolute favorite thing for me and my brother. We would just sit there with our eyes glued to the channel or to the TV, just watching it, because you see a lot of chaos-driven people there. And a lot of their behavior is unruly. They do not like structure. They do not like order. If you're going to commit a crime, why get upset, start yelling, cursing, and berating the officers when you're arrested? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But this is who they are. So they hate order. They don't want it. It really binds them to a box that they don't want to be in, So you have that. They also tend to be status obsessed. Remember, I talked about that yesterday with entitled people. Status obsessed. And a way to become a part of a certain status is to carry a superior disposition, an entitled disposition, right? And then somehow you can find your way. Over time, these individuals may find their way on a higher level above everybody else. So they are status driven. The only way to gain status sometime is by using chaos as a viable strategy, using chaos as a viable strategy. If I create chaos, I'm in control of that chaos. If I yell loud, if I scream, if I argue with the police, if I go into this march or protest and scream my head off, I am going to be seen as fill in the blanks, right? An activist, a tough cookie, somebody who stands up for themselves, right? So it's status, and sometimes chaos is a viable option for status. You know what I mean? They may also support what we call disruptive activism. Disruptive activism. And that is when a group of people get together and they protest against something, or they engage in activist events, but they don't do so for the right reason. They do so because it gives them stimulation. They do so because it gives them attention. They do so because it gives them status. And they continue down that road of activism because this is just how they get their need for chaos, stimulation met. This is just who they are. So we call it destructive activism. They're not there for the right reasons, but they will get in there. And sometimes they'll even hold up a sign and make it look like they know what they're protesting, but they really don't. It's the simple fact that they have to fit in with the crowd in order to get their need met, which is, again, destructive activism. They also tend to have a need for constant validation. They tend to be very emotionally immature. They have a need for control, and they tend to perceive chaos as a happy place. They perceive chaos as a happy place. If I can get that argument over there started with A, B, and C, I'm comfortable, because I'm just going to get involved and I'm going to tell her what she's always needed to know, right? I know you've heard people say that before. I'm going to tell her off. The minute I get a chance to tell her off, I'm going to tell her A, B, and C. Or if it's a man, a male, a father, a brother, you may hear something like, man, bro just doesn't understand. If he says the next thing that is going to offend me, I'm not holding back, and instead of having the disposition of, I don't budge unless I'm really pushed, instead of having that disposition, a chaos driven individual is constantly looking for that one thing to explode over, And this happens a lot in families as well, especially families where there's a covert narcissist and they're trying to hold down all their narcissism. They don't want you to see how narcissistic they are. But on the inside, they've got all this rage and they want to say something and they want to create chaos, but they don't want you to know who they really are. So these individuals you will find with the label narcissist. You will also find entitlement under this heading as well. This is how they exist. Let me also say some research suggests that belief in conspiracy theories is also part of being chaos addicted, right? My mom used to watch a show. I can't think of what it is. Oh, that show almost came to me too. Oh, man. I cannot remember it. I'll probably remember it as soon as I log off here. But my mom used to listen to the weirdest radio station ever. It almost came to me. And I used to say, Mom, why are you listening to this? And she's like, well, Aunt Gary, who was my mom's longtime sister-like best friend, she's like, Aunt Gary listens to this show, who was slightly into conspiracy theories and dramatic. She would say things like, I'm only listening to this show because Aunt Gary listens to it. And I listened to it one night as a kid. I had to be around 13, 14. And I remember thinking, this is the most ridiculous radio station I have ever seen. But everything that would be circulated on that radio station, it almost came to me. It almost came to me. Everything that was on that radio station was involved in some kind of conspiracy theory. And this, my mom's friend, our aunt, quote unquote aunt, was just driven by this station. Like it did something to her, There's also use of something known as psychological urgency. Psychological urgency. Chaos-driven people engage in psychological urgency. Psychological urgency is really a business concept, because what it is it's the way that stores kind of welcome customers, right? So think about going into the store around Thanksgiving, Christmas. You hear Christmas music. You see posters up on the wall. This is 50% off only today. You may see, some kind of banner say closing in 24 hours. You may also see something electronic as you pull out of the parking lot. The electronic advertisement may say something like, Merry Christmas, come back soon, come back tomorrow for 2% off A, B, and C. We call that psychological urgency because the urgency is non-existent. There's no reason to get all anxious and upset and excited and stimulated. But if you see something that says, come back tomorrow, come back in 2 hours, store closing in 5 days, right? That kind of pushes you to react, right? And then you start thinking in your mind, well, maybe I do need those gloves. Maybe I do need those pair of earrings. Maybe I do need some shoes. I think I'm going to go in there tomorrow. They said they only have 5 days left before they close, right? Psychological urgency is often at the core of chaos, addicted, and driven people, right? Have you ever gotten a call from somebody who's chaotic? Bob, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, please. Come on, I know you're listening to me. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Bob, right? I know you've had that experience. Or if you are looking at your text messaging, I just talked about this last week in a video. If you're looking at your text messages, you may get something like, answer me, answer me, answer me, answer me. Are you ignoring me? Are you ignoring me? Are you ignoring me? And some people post it back to back to back to back, right? When are you free tonight? When are you free tonight? When are you free tonight? Right? All of that is a form of psychological urgency. It says, I need you to react right now. And when you pick up the phone and you text back, it might be something as simple as, I just wanted to know if it was going to rain tomorrow. There you have it, right? And so a chaos-driven individual, I can't wait to go to the chat box because I know you guys can relate with that, relate to that. A chaos-driven individual will do that to you. I have clients who have done that to me in the past. I've given consultations to people who have done that in the past. And it is very insensitive and very disrespectful in a sense, because what it's saying is, I just did A and B, or I have a question, or I have a request, and therefore you haven't answered me, and it's been 24 hours. Well, you may not get an answer for the next month, right? Depending on, right? Excuse me. Depending on what's going on in your life, right? So psychological urgency. Let me also say overparenting happens as well with these kind of individuals. Helicopter parents, they're just constantly over their children, just kind of moving them like a puppet, right? Overparenting is also something that research in this area of study has identified as a problem. Chaos-driven people often seem to overparent. They tend to be very clingy with their kids as well. Now, before I go back to the chat box, let me just identify for you briefly. Before we talk a little bit, I'll give you the rest of the content and then we'll wrap up. But let me also give you some research on this. I thought it was pretty interesting. Some research suggests that the chemical reactions in the brain, because we have what we call neurotransmitters, and they really do communicate with neurons in the brain. The chemicals in our brain is often impacted, I should put it that way, by neurons and different brain structures and cells. The physiological response to fight or flight system, the physiological response to being anxious or having a panic attack or having your heart rate just up for a long period of time, it releases feel-good hormones, it releases endorphins, it releases different chemicals in the brain that conflict-driven and argumentative people actually crave. So as I stated earlier, they tend to really feel calm and at peace after they have really caused an eruption in the environment, because again, it's what's happening physiologically within them that's causing them to feel okay. I hope that makes sense. I feel like that was a little choppy. There may also be, for chaos-driven people, the influence of a neglectful child development, and poor socialization. You haven't been socialized correctly. You haven't been taught how to be a friend, how to be peaceful, how to be rational, how to be modest, how to be humble. And possibly you've experienced some trauma, some childhood neglect, PTSD on top of poor socialization. And that just creates a basket of chaos, right? Just think about quote unquote mean girls in the schools. I see this all the time. Sometimes school districts will invite me to come to their schools, talk to their kids, observe some of the kids, provide treatment, get, groups started or, programs started with the school. And if I'm there for a few hours during the day, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around all of the little girls between the ages of 7 and 12 who are very, very rude, cold, disrespectful, dramatic, overwhelming, pushy. The list just goes on. And this is supposed to be the new cute, I guess, because it's horrendous, I have a client that, was a very smart girl. And she admitted to me when she was, I think, 8, 9. She says, I like drama, Miss Tamara. And I don't know why I like drama. She's now 30, but she's like, yeah, was she 9 at the time? No, she's now 20. I'm sorry, not 30. She's 20. And she said to me when she was around 8, 9 years of age, she says, Miss Tamara, I can't help myself. I just don't know why I can't help myself. I like to talk about other people. I like what I feel when I share information I know I shouldn't share. If somebody asks me to keep a secret, I like how I feel when I don't keep the secret, And I asked her a very honest question at one point. I said to her, I says, sometimes we create our own chaos, and we create our own chaos because we don't have proper boundaries. Have you found yourself doing that? And she says, very slowly, it took us a while to get to it, but then she eventually said, yes, Miss Tamara, I cause drama, and I do that because I'm bored. Can you believe that? I do that because I'm bored. Some people do it also because, again, they need that stimulation, and I think that was part of her issue. Other research says trauma, a history of abuse, domestic violence, PTSD, complex PTSD, those things can also trigger chaos-driven people. Can you imagine a quote unquote Karen acting out in a Target or a Walmart, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, she also received a diagnosis of PTSD, right? And she not only has PTSD, but she also tends to have histrionic personality traits. And here she is in the grocery store yelling her head off, There's also a need for chaos that can be seen on a spectrum. And I'll make sure I post this in the description box for you. Some research suggests that a need for chaos should be seen as on a spectrum. 1 is I absolutely need no chaos. 5 is I function on some chaos. And 10 is I am completely driven by chaos and I need chaos to feel whole. Does that make sense, guys? So think of it in that sense. Kind of go back in your mind and pinpoint somebody in your world who's been chaos driven or chaos addicted and ask yourself, were they a 1, 5, or 10? You'd be surprised what you come up with. Okay, let's go back to the chat box, guys. I'm going to finish the content for you and then we're going to wrap up. Give me one second. I'm just scrolling. Hold on. Here we go. The Good Glow says, it's triggering when I see parents yelling and cursing at their kids for not walking fast enough, for crying. I agree. I very much agree. She goes on to say, my mother treated me the same way. And when I see the same thing that I experienced, it's painful or heartbreaking. Yes, it is. I very much agree. I have been known in my past to take the initiative to stop that kind of behavior if it gets too far out of line. For those of you who have been with me since the beginning of my channel years ago, I think you probably would be able to remember the case. I told you there was a child in a grocery store just screaming and crying and screaming and crying. And mom was busy looking at earrings, looking at bracelets, looking at watches, changing shoes, and like I walked by her several times because we're in a really big Target that's connected to another store. So I had been in this two-part store in Washington D.C. A couple years ago, and we passed each other quite a few times. And at the time, I believe I was a beginning therapist, but I was working more in the role of child protective services, providing advocacy and treatment to their patients or their members, their foster kids, things like that. And I remember walking past this mom, and she's just screaming and yelling and cursing at her child. And she was saying, "Didn't I tell you that I'm not going to get that for you? You've gotten enough toys as it is. You just had a birthday." And she's going on and on and on. But while she's talking to this, it looked like 2.5-year-old, 3.5, sitting in a cart, pretty as a picture. She was a sweet little mushroom. And she's crying and crying, and tears rolling down her little eyes, or face, I should say. And mom is putting on shoes, trying on bracelets. She put her earrings in. She's, looking to make sure that she looks good, looking in the mirror. And this poor little sweet innocent baby is just screaming her head off. Mom should have said, "It's okay, honey. Mommy cannot get this for you right now." And, console this child. Let her understand why you're saying no. And she may still cry, but at least she may not cry as if she's being ignored, neglected. But I remember getting so upset. My mom was with me. My brother was with me. I walked over to her and I said, "This is not a good sight for me. And I don't like what I see. And I advise that you tend to this. The supervisor, I just heard around the corner, he wants to talk to you. This is disruption of an environment, and your child is being neglected right now." And she looks at me and says, sorry, the good glow. She looks at me and says, "Oh." I says, "Yeah. And I'm sorry, I can't allow you to continue this behavior. I can't allow you to do that. It's my profession to make sure the kids are well taken care of, and this is not well taken care of at this time." And I remember she took her foot out of the shoe she was trying to get into, and she looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm sorry." I says, "No, maybe you should say sorry to your little girl, because she's been screaming her head off for the past 45 minutes. And, she reached in the cart and picked her baby up, and she's patting the baby, and, but I remember thinking, that was a tough thing, because number one, I could have been killed. Okay. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I was a lot younger at the time. But it was tough to go to a grown adult and say, "Don't allow this to happen. This is not okay." So I agree with you. The good glow. It is very triggering. I think I was triggered more to anger and disappointment than anything, because you've got this sweet little baby who's, fresh into the world. And mom is so vain and shallow and self-centered that she didn't care what happened to the baby. So in short, I agree with you on that one. Excuse me, the good glow. I agree with you. C says, "My family says you can talk about anything, but when I do, it's shut down. So I just stay quiet. And that's caused me to be like that with most people. But I'm such a..." I don't know. I can't see that icon. So forgive me. "I like to talk and enjoy myself." Okay. I get you. I get you. Makes sense. I hate when people say my family. I hate when people say you can say anything. Well, Judge Judy does that. And I know that because my siblings watch Judge Judy. She does that. Sometimes one of the ones who are suing the plaintiff or the defendant, sometimes it's both, will say, "Can I say something?" And she'll say, "You can say whatever you want," right? But it kind of has this edge. See, it has this edge of, you can say whatever you want. Doesn't mean I'm going to listen. Doesn't mean you're going to influence me. So I totally get you. Jermaine, hello. Good to see you. Welcome back to tonight's live chat. Okay, bear with me, guys, as I get through this. Thank you, SH. Thank you. Yes, me too. You're welcome, Jessica J. You're welcome. Okay. Bear with me. Life with a lab and more. Ooh, I like that. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you in a live chat with me tonight. Life with a lab and more says temper tantrums also get the attention of enablers who step in for the person creating conflict to reinforce the behavior and make them continue to feel superior. I agree with that. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. JD Jenny says, I agree with that, by the way. JD Jenny says, my therapist just said that very same thing. They don't see us as equals. Yeah, they don't. Nope. Okay, I'm scrolling, looking for comments. Janine MacArthur, hello and welcome. Glad to see you back tonight. Janine MacArthur says, the type always continues to have a drama fest. I have so many people like this in my family. I've learned to deal with their difficult personalities. It is very difficult, right? Yeah. What I've learned over time, and this may be helpful to you guys, is if you know that you are in a group, a family, an environment where there's drama, share as little as you can. Share as little as you can. Because drama can't be started, perpetuated, and continued if you don't give them anything to talk about. So I would give them very, very little of my energy. Once you find out that they are drama seekers, I definitely would stop giving them anything to go on, you know? Gary Bennett, did I say hello to you tonight? I think I did. If I didn't, welcome. Good to see you back. Gary Bennett says, carers that deliberately neglect their duties of care to increase fear and despair, then praise themselves are evil individuals. Well, yes. And I think I talked about this yesterday in a live chat, that sometimes there are healthcare providers, there's wannabe healthcare providers, there's nurse technicians, paramedics, you know, the list goes on, who want to help. And sometimes they get into the field and they shouldn't be there at all. Right. So I agree. Well, you know, Alec Gregory 628. I hope I said that correctly. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you and welcome to the channel. They go on to say, they say, excuse me, problem when you find out they're on the board of owners of theaters around the country and own their own dance too. That's a problem. Yeah, that's true. I agree. Totally agree. Okay, still looking for comments, guys. Then we're going to get back into the content. Sun and Sunflowers, I'm going to just put that up so everybody can see it. Thank you for saying that. I hope the same for you. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Same to you. Ooh, Jermaine says aversion to stability and well-being. Yep. Aversion to stability and well-being. Yeah, that was good. That was good. Thank you, Bossy True Through 15. I appreciate you. Anthony, hi, hello, and welcome. Good to see you. Anthony says they have a I win, you lose mentality, but don't know how to compete. Ooh, yeah. I've seen some individuals like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Those are the people that I usually walk away from. Tammy nicely says, oh my gosh, Tammy, you were describing my sister when you mentioned the first sis calling the other and my older brother. They are both addicts. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Tammy nicely, I did get your message the other day, so I'm coming back to you. Bear with me, okay? Yeah, I had a feeling that would relate to you. When I saw you in the chat box, I'm like, ooh, she's going to see this and say that's me. Brian B, hello and welcome back tonight. Good to see you. M and Odell, welcome back. Good to see you as well. If I haven't already welcomed you. Okay. Man, I'm behind. Jeez Louise. Okay, Jupiter Gone Wild, hello and welcome. Glad to see you in a live chat. And welcome to the channel. Jupiter Gone Wild says, I'm convinced that people who love creating drama have a bad relationship with their inner child and horrible emotion regulation skills. You are correct. And as a matter of fact, let's jump back into the content on that one. You are right that they have extremely poor or non-existent ability to regulate their emotions. They also tend to have very poor coping skills. Their coping skills are destructive, they are damaging, and they are useless. That's part of this as well. So how does these individuals impact you? Well, some of the research, and even in my practice, this is some of the things that I'm seeing and I have seen over the past 15 years. And the first thing is what I talked about earlier, which is learned behavior. You grow up in an environment where there's drama, right? There's a tapestry of chaos, a whole quilt of chaos. Everybody has a face, everybody has a mask, everybody has a disposition, everybody has a certain intensity of how angry they get, offended, they get hurt, and when you're in a family like that and you're coming up at the same time with your family, you guys are just growing together. It can cause you to ingest the negative behaviors. And before you know it, there you are being a bully, loud, angry, intimidating, and you may feel, you may see this as not you, but somebody else in your life. You may feel that I'm justified. Well, maybe not, right? And so research in psychology says that if you grow up in a family like this, you may begin to ingest some of these behaviors and you exhibit them and show them yourself. The only way around that is to gain self-awareness, accept that this is how you respond, and then move forward. There's also the way that this can impact you if you're living with people like this, or they're in your family, or you're just around people with this kind of chaos-driven demeanor. Research in psychology says that you can develop what's called emotional fatigue. Emotional fatigue. It's another way of saying compassion fatigue for we professionals. It's almost like the chaos-driven individual is so chaotic and so loud and histrionic and overwhelming, and just they never stop talking, they never stop spewing. It literally drains the energy from you. And I have only had 2 clients in my 15-year career who was like this. One I had to refer because my energy level could not keep up. The other individual dropped out of therapy many years ago with me because she felt that I was telling her her disposition was too dramatic and chaotic. Although I didn't tell it to her like that quite, but her reaction to things was really huge. So an example of this, which can lead to your own emotional fatigue, is how she told me a police officer was tailgating her. She said she was afraid that her stickers, her emission stickers or inspection stickers on her vehicle was not up to date. And this is how dramatized she was, however, about it. Instead of her just continuing to drive safely down the road, she decides to quickly pull over on the side of the road, jump out of her car, and she begins to walk towards the police car, at which point the police, gets out of his car, starts yelling at her from his intercom or some kind of speaker system to get back in her car. And she showed me this dash cam footage right in therapy. And I told her, she wanted to go after his boss and make sure that his boss knew that he was tailgating her down a busy highway. But I explained to her, that's an example of how tiring these people can be. I explained to her, I think you were in the absolute wrong. You did not have to take that approach with authority. This is a prime example of why you have a hard time in relationships, And so she dropped out of therapy after that. She was like, oh no, I'm not dealing with this lady. She's too straight to the point. But after so many sessions with her, I was drained. The life out of my heart and soul was drained. I was so tired. And so you may find yourself with these kind of individuals feeling emotional fatigue. You may also be emotionally abused as well, right? Let's say you put up a boundary with a chaos driven or addicted individual. They're going to try to beat that boundary down so they can get back to the place that they want to be at. And so that can be emotionally abusive sometimes, depending on what they're doing, to you. Over time, you may come to a place where you start to accept the disrespect and the lack of boundaries that they have with you. It's really hard to hold up a boundary and say, I demand your respect, when they're pushing back at you with such force. So you may find yourself, this is how you're impacted. You may find yourself over time with these kind of personalities, just saying, you know what, it's okay. She called my house at 4 a.m. and told me that she just wanted to talk to me about something I said to her the other day. I'm just going to call her back. No. Somebody else in your world, chaos driven, may come to you at work. Let's say this is a coworker, may come to your desk at work, write something on a sticky note, watch for your expression, gossip and listen around corners to see how you feel about what your boss wants to talk to you about, and you just accept that they're nebby, that they're prying, that they're dramatic. And so over time, they wear you down so much that you begin to accept who they are. You may also find yourself second guessing your own reality, right? They're so loud and histrionic and boisterous that it's hard not to trust them, because they have a way of influencing how you hear things, how you perceive things sometimes. So it's hard to understand your own reality. And so you may second guess. You may also develop over time healthy coping skills to deal with them. Healthy coping skills to deal with them may be lacking, right? God forbid, but you may start drinking alcohol or smoking more marijuana to deal with them. Maybe you are tailgating and under pressure and engaging in, what's the word I'm looking for? Rage on the road, because that person has just worn you down and now you're getting your emotions out in another way. You may also recognize that there's often an invasion of privacy in your life, and you may have been so broken down by that chaos driven person that you no longer know how to reassert your authority to gain your privacy back, to gain your confidentiality back. You may not know how to do that because they wear you out. And of course, you suddenly become conditioned to their attitude, to how you respond to them. And you may allow your walls to get broken down so much that you make the relationship work and you deal with it no matter what. That's just Kathy over there, not knowing that Kathy is draining the life out of you. Okay, guys, that is this chaotic driven, the end of this topic. I'll put it that way. Chaos driven people. We could literally have a Monday through Friday live chat on that. That's how big the conversation is. These people are draining. Keep in mind the most important points of this live chat tonight. They are chaos addicted. There's an interplay or a relationship between particular personality traits and social influence or context. Borderline personality, growing up in a very dramatic, angry household, can very much create a person who is chaos driven. A developing sociopath who was raised in a family full of girls, and he is very accustomed to their thoughts, their emotions, and how they behave. He may become conditioned over time to behave in a dramatic and chaos-driven way himself. So keep that in mind. There's also a tapestry of chaos with these people. It's like looking at a quilt, and you see all these different patches and all these different patterns. And that is basically the mind and the heart of a chaos addicted person. There's many faces to them, many shades, So I hope that you will take some time and rewatch this live chat. For me, it's a lot to take in, and I'm sure it's a lot for you to take in as well. I really do hope that this was a helpful live chat for you tonight. Okay, chat box, and then we're going to wrap up. JD Jenny says, helicopter parenting. As a parent, when I'm not over parenting, They accuse me of being a neglectful parent. Oh yeah, that's a tough one, right? I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that's a double whammy, right? Bella, I think it's Bella, or is it Belle? I haven't seen you in so long. Hello and welcome back, my friend. Belle or Bella says, I'm studying philosophy this semester and just finished writing my thesis on comparative contrast on East and West philosophers. Wow, philosophical elements and context. And this topic is truly relevant. Thank you so much. And yes, it is. Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome. I would have loved to have studied a little bit further into philosophy when I was in college, but I was taking so many psychology classes, and then I went to grad school and started forensic psychology and counseling. So it's like I didn't have any room. So I applaud you. I think philosophy is a really tough topic to study, you know, but if you like it, it's a good one. Good luck to you. That's awesome. Okay, Starburst. Oh my God, I almost called you the wrong name. Starburst. Hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. SH says he enjoys seeing others struggle. It gives him a sense of superiority. Yeah, that's a good point. Yep, I agree. Foxy Fair 123. I think I said that correctly. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you and welcome to the channel. Foxy Fair 123 says, I've heard that narcissistic people can appear very healthy until they're triggered. That is so true. It's true. It's true. And it happens in sessions as well. It happens in therapy. If, you know, a therapist has to juggle, for those of you who are interested in the dynamic between a narcissist and a therapist, therapists have to juggle a lot. Just in a series of exchanges, we have to juggle a lot. When you come in, I'm saying you in general, for therapy, we have to juggle how we approach you, juggle how we perceive you've approached us, juggle our own thoughts and emotions, right? Juggle our own opinions while we kind of put that to the side for a little while, you know? We also have to juggle what could be a fragile ego, what could be a narcissistic mindset. And if there's a narcissistic injury, which is what you're referring to, Foxy Fair 123, a narcissistic injury, then we have to learn how to hold that with kid gloves, right? Because a narcissistic injury is kind of cruel when it comes back on somebody else. A narcissistic injury is you've literally cut this individual. This is how they feel. You've cut their legs out from under them, and they don't have anything to stand on because you've cut them down so far. And so now their only response to you is anger, pain, hatred, retaliation, withdrawal, isolation, gaslighting, stonewalling. I mean, we can go down the whole list of narcissistic behaviors, right? So you're very right. Sometimes it takes one small thing to trigger them, and then you get to see exactly who they are. For therapists, when we trigger a client, we really do. We understand how this dynamic works. It's pretty bad, you know? Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting most of you before I sign off too late. Jay Harvey asked me a question. Is it too late to teach a 5-year-old healthy behaviors and mindsets to avoid some of these conditions, especially if a parent is struggling with learning to be a gentle parent? Is it too late to teach a 5-year-old healthy behaviors and mindsets? Not at all. Not at all. There used to be some research, and I used to read some of the research, that once children hit the age of 3, and once children hit the age of 8, 7, somewhere around in there, their traits and personalities and behaviors are all cemented. I'm not sure I agree with that completely. And there's a body of research. Let me know after the live chat in the comments section if you want me to post some research for you. I will gather those articles and leave them in the comments section for you. But, excuse me, there is some research that suggests that is not the case. If a child is going through a really tough start to early childhood, as long as you can buffer that with something, the child can then transition, grow over time. Kids are very, very resilient, and so is the brain. So whatever you implement now at the age of 5 can last that child for the rest of their lives. So you do want to give them a series of experiences that can teach them healthy behaviors and attitudes. Take them to the museum and teach them things. Take them to the library and help them pick out books that they can look at, and you can kind of read stories about better behaviors and respect and courage and being compassionate and loving and giving and forgiving, right? You can also get some videos off Amazon. Let them watch cartoons that really highlights the respect between two people, right? It highlights the importance or the minimization of being of a different race and ethnicity, right? Being loving and caring. So as long as you incorporate a variety of tools into that 5-year-old's world, I think you're good to go. Sesame Street used to be a really good one for me. They've kind of gone down the drain, but Sesame Street is one. I used to watch Barney. For those of you who are around my age, Barney was another one that would teach these friendly things. I can't remember. Sesame Street, Barney, Mr. Rogers. Am I aging myself here? The Magic School Bus, that kind of stuff, right? So incorporate a variety of tools, and 5-year-olds can typically be okay. So I hope that was helpful. All right. I'm looking for a couple more comments before we go. Bella says, have you ever woke up one day to realize your whole life has been a lie? Not me personally, no, because I'm very, very authentic and straight to the point. But my clients, yes. My siblings, yes. One of them, yes. She goes on to say, orchestrated by estranged, dysfunctional, intergenerational family dynamics, recruited friends, partners, gain trust, and exploit. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I had one person tell me about my channel and said, your channel has completely snatched the wool out from over my eyes. She's like, I woke up the other day and I thought my whole life is a lie. So I've had clients say that. I've had people here on the channel say that, but that means something, Belle or Bella. Roman T, hello. Welcome to tonight's live chat, and you're welcome. Yes, you're welcome, and thank you. Okay. Anthony High says, how do you prove someone is mentally, emotionally, and spiritually abusing a person? Well, if you add that question to the comment section, I will go back and add a response to that. I don't want to hold up the live chat by commenting on that. So I think it's a fantastic question. Post in the comment section. I will answer that one for you. Jeremy Robinson, did I welcome you tonight? Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Always glad to see you in a live chat. He says, JD Jenny mentioned passive aggressive people. My family is like that. They turn to substance abuse, the silent treatment. Yep. Passive aggressive behaviors, like, I'm going to add to that. Passive aggressive behaviors could be gossiping about you, spreading things that's not true, being the orchestrator of rumors. It could also be the person who's posting things on social media that they know is going to hurt and offend you, right? I mean, we can make a whole list of passive aggressive behaviors. Okay, one more comment. Michelle Lynn, hello. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to see you. Dawn 1, hello and welcome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that had to push your buttons, right? It is embarrassing, but it had to push your buttons. I know it did. It had to. Michelle Lynn says, I almost missed the whole live. Well, there's always the replay. I'm sorry, I got a little bit distracted in the chat box. Thank you so much, Nancy. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That's wonderful. We're actually going to end on Nancy R. Thank you guys for being with me in this live chat tonight. I truly hope that it was helpful. Me and all my little stories and examples. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of a personalized and professional view of these topics. I encourage you to post in the comments section. Let me know what you're thinking. If you have questions, comments, I welcome them because I do try to respond to every last one of them. So for those of you I also missed in the chat box, forgive me, but know that I'm scrolling later on. I see them all. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for the continual support, the super chats, the list goes on. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Good night, guys.